Welcome back to another episode of Teachers in Transition, the podcast and the YouTube channel. My name is Kitty Boitnott, the owner of Boitnott Coaching and the founder of Teachers in Transition. If you have listened to this podcast before, you know that I am a heart-centered career transition and job search coach, specializing in working with teachers who are ready to make a career change, but don't know how or where to begin. I'm also a certified stress management coach. And so on alternating weeks, I offer tips, techniques, strategies for either career transition or stress management. This is episode 153, and the subject matter this week is stress. Now, I have admitted to you in the past that I sometimes feel like I have shared everything I already know about stress management and that I have nothing new to say on the subject and don't know what else to share. That said, doesn't keep me from looking for new information offered in a different way that might resonate with listeners in a new frame. So this week, the topic is stress, and I found an article by a young teacher, I'm assuming she's young, Amber Osuba, and she's offered this article called Stress Management for Teachers, 16 Activities to Reduce Teachers' Stress from Everfi, a company or organization named Everfi. And so I thought I would share the highlights from the article. There are 16 tips for managing or reducing teacher stress, but they are divided into 4 categories. And I seem to feel like I've mentioned these categories in the past, but it's been a while. I went back and looked, and it hasn't been a recent episode, so maybe it's time to reiterate or to speak to again the clusters of activities that you can do for yourself to better manage, more proactively and perhaps more effectively manage your day-to-day stress as a teacher. And I know that you're feeling stressed. I am talking to more and more teachers every week who are on family medical leave or are taking medication for anxiety and stress just in order to manage their jobs. And so I know that a lot of teachers are feeling very stressed this year, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better anytime soon. So the first cluster of activities, so the 4 clusters that this author refers to are avoid, alter, accept, and adapt, kind of like the steps of grief, if you will. So in the first category, avoid, she talks about how there are some types of stress that you can manage to avoid with some thought and perhaps planning. And one of the things that she recommends is picking your traffic pattern on your way to work. Is it possible that by the time you get to work, the traffic, the commute that you've had to endure has already contributed to getting your day off on the wrong foot, and that you walk into the building already feeling under the gun because of the commute that you've had to experience? So one of the things that she recommends is that you can either alter your route for a less even if it takes a few minutes longer, a less congested route so that the traffic isn't quite so stressful. Perhaps another possibility is to listen to something that you would enjoy to take your mind off of the commute. If altering it isn't possible and you have to stick with the same route no matter what, alter your environment while you are in the car by listening to a podcast that you enjoy, or like this one maybe, or an audiobook, something that will take your mind off of the commute and help you to manage so that by the time you get to school, you're not feeling overwrought and stressed out. She suggests that catching yourself before you spiral into a stress mode can also be useful, and to be mindful of your conversations with colleagues. Don't let them drag you down their rabbit hole if they are complaining or gossiping. And this is one of the things I have been big on. I mean, we all like to be in the know. We all like to know what's going on. At the same time, gossip for the sake of gossip, especially if it's tearing someone down or causing harm to someone's reputation, that's not helpful or healthy for anyone, including the listener. It's not good for the person who's sharing the gossip. And every school has at least one, the one person who always seems to know everything and is only too eager to make tracks to the lounge to unload it on everybody in the lounge at lunchtime. I've been there. I know that that's the truth. So don't be the gossip and don't indulge in the gossip, because all that does is drag you down and cause you to feel more stressed. So keep your head down, put your blinders on, and do your job. And don't let other people, unless they're offering you cheerleading and support and they have your back, avoid the lounge and avoid the lunchtime gossip. Avoid taking on too much. I've talked about this too. Teachers are famous for overextending themselves, over volunteering, offering to do things because they want to please, they want to be perceived as a team player, they want their administrator to know that they're eager to do their part. I get it. There are good reasons to do some of that, but there's a limit to how much you can volunteer outside of your regular job and have any time for yourself or your family or your friends. If you're not married yet, you don't have a family of your own, that doesn't mean that you can give all of your time and energy to your work. It means that you need to extend yourself and find friends that you can enjoy and do things with. So don't overextend yourself and stop over volunteering. Do take the breaks that you need to take. Too many teachers work through lunch or eat at their desk or don't bother to take a break in the afternoon, and they hold their bladder until the point of bursting, and then they have to run to get somebody to cover their students while they go relieve themselves. Don't do that to yourself. It's too much on your body. It's too much on your mind to do that kind of thing to yourself. Take breaks as you need them, including a lunchtime, even if it's just 20 minutes. Lunch away from your desk and away from your work. Listen to a podcast during your lunchtime, something that's not related to school. Your brain needs to disengage so that it can re-engage. We've all had the experience of looking at a problem for so long that we just don't see an answer. And then we take a break from it, or we go take a nap, or we sleep on it, and suddenly, we've got the answer. Your brain needs the rest, needs to recharge, needs to re-energize itself. So take needed breaks. So those are the 4 suggestions for how to avoid stress. Here's how you might alter your stress. Sometimes you need to just remember that work-life balance is important in your life and the lives of everybody else. And you need to schedule time where you can think thoughtfully and enjoy your non-work time and really be present in activities that don't necessarily include your work. That's an important skill that you need to develop for yourself. Also, being sure that you're making the most of your meeting and planning times. too often, I don't know about anybody else, but I know that when I was using my planning period, there would be times when I would go to the lounge to have a place to work, a table, somewhere I could spread out my books and notes and engage in planning. The thing is that if I got engaged in conversation or got caught up in something else that was going on in the lounge, I didn't make as good a use of that time as I might have if I had gone to the library and found a quiet corner somewhere to do that work. So make the most of your time. Remember that your time is valuable and you need to manage each and every hour so that you get the most out of it. The more work you can get done at school, the less you'll have to do at home. And just as a side note, stop making work for yourself. In today's world, there are plenty of resources online that you can take advantage of for free or a low fee. You do not have to constantly be creating brand new lessons and recreating the wheel. There are thousands of lessons and lesson plans out there for you to take advantage of. So take advantage of them and free up some of your time. If you're experiencing financial stress, this is number 7 on the list of 16 ways to reduce your stress. If you're experiencing financial stress because of an overextension of debt or an inability to save or invest, seek help for that. There are plenty of opportunities for you to speak with professional finance managers who work with teachers all the time. I can speak myself to the importance of your starting some sort of retirement fund in addition to whatever your state or district offers as retirement, as a supplemental plan. So do that as soon as you can, even if you don't think you can afford it. You'd be amazed at how quickly $100 a month will grow over time if you start early. So even $50 a month, whatever it is that you can squeeze out, but start some sort of fund, set aside money for the house you want or the car, whatever it is that you need, create a budget and try to stick to it. And finally, she mentions secondhand stress. How as teachers, we tend to hear stories from our students that are tragic and sad and draw us in and make us worry about our students. They're legitimate worries, but they're not your worries. So try not to take on extra stress that you don't need to take on. If you hear that a student, their family is suffering from food insecurity or homelessness, turn that over to the appropriate person or agency within your school or district and let them handle it. It's not your job to take care of that particular issue. The third A that the author refers to is accept. And one of the things that she suggests we have to accept as educators is that sometimes there are top-down initiatives. They may come from your governor, they may come from the General Assembly, they may come from the Department of Education, they may come from your local school board, they may come from your local superintendent. Wherever they may come from, they may feel onerous, they may make you uncomfortable because change always makes us uncomfortable. But there may not be a way to avoid or alter the reality of the new initiative, the new curriculum, the new latest, greatest thing that everybody thinks you need to adapt to. So accept is the third A in the list of A's to take into consideration in managing your stress. And so you would need to accept and adjust to newness of top-down initiatives. Give them a chance. I mean, there's not much you can do about it. You can bemoan it, you can begroan it, you can complain about it, but it's a waste of good energy. So accept that these are expectations that your school division has for you, and do the best you can to meet them. She says also, as far as meeting student needs, there are some times that you just have to accept that their needs exceed your ability to meet them. And that's when you need to draw on other resources, find other places where you can draw from help, and forgive yourself for not being able to be 100% everything that your student needs. As far as mistakes, she mentions that we all make, this is number 11 on the list, by the way. We all make them. So start practicing some self-forgiveness, and don't hold yourself to any sort of illusion of perfection. None of us are perfect. None of us behave perfectly all the time. So take heart in knowing that it's okay to make a mistake every once in a while. If you make a mistake and it somehow harms someone else, take responsibility for it and apologize for it, and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Mistakes are simply educational lessons that we learn from, hopefully. You don't want to continue to make the same mistake over and over again. That will become a problem. But the occasional mistake, the occasional blunder, the occasional misspeaking, don't beat yourself up over it. It's part of being human. And then she says, do not forget that you're in a shared experience. So find a mentor, a friend on staff, someone that you can share with and not be afraid that they're going to go tattling or ratting on you and, oh, guess what so-and-so said, or that you won't become the latest subject of gossip in the lounge. You don't want that. But if you can find someone that you can trust as a mentor or as a buddy, someone who feels in a similar way to you and shares your viewpoint, some of your experience, that you can bounce off of each other, vent with each other when you need to, bounce good ideas off of, create some synergy with, do that to help build up yourself and accept the things that you cannot change or alter. Then finally, the fourth A is to adapt. With some stress, the author says, it's a matter of adjusting our standards and expectations. If you can't alter, you can't avoid, you can't adapt to, you might just have, accept, you might just have to adapt to whatever the stress is. You don't want to hold yourself to such high expectations that you constantly feel like you are falling short. As far as student expectations, the author shares that the hardest lesson she ever learned as a new teacher was not to play the comparison game between groups of students year to year or even class to class. Good advice. Comparing, holding up false expectations only leads to disappointment, and you don't need to be doing that to yourself. If you are struggling with classroom management, and frankly, it sounds like these days a lot of teachers are struggling, not so much because their strategies or practices don't work anymore, but because they are faced with students who have forgotten how to behave in the classroom after 2.5 years of being at home on their computer during COVID and lockdown. And I don't know if this is accurate or not. It's my armchair analysis based on stories that I'm hearing, so I may be totally off the mark. But my current theory is that because we had to lock down in the spring of 2020, and many of our students were in and out of virtual school and in and out of in-person school in 2021, and now that we've started 2021 and 2022 and we're mostly back in person, kids are demonstrating a lack of social, emotional, development that they missed out on while they were at home and isolated from their classmates. There's no one to blame about that. The pandemic was what it was. We had to close the schools at first to keep people safe until we could get a handle on how the virus was being spread. Nobody knew for sure what we should be doing. So everybody was doing the best they could. So I'm not trying to place any blame anywhere. Everyone did the best they could. But now we all need to realize that there is a problem and that we need to address the problem, and expecting that children will either be academically on track or emotionally on track is putting an undue pressure on them that I think many of them are responding to. They don't know how to articulate that I don't know how to behave in the classroom. They're just doing what they do. So if you're having issues with classroom management because your students simply don't know how, they've gotten out of the habit of being in a classroom with other students and with you, get help. There's plenty of resources online, plenty of books that you can read, plenty of experts that you can go to for suggestions, but get help. Don't just let it get worse, because that will only cause more problems down the line for you. Performance reviews, the end of the year evaluations that every teacher has to sit through. Take them in stride, regardless of what the feedback is. Take it in stride. Try not to take it personally. You know, I had an individual call me on a Saturday night. This has been several years ago. She called me on a Saturday night about 6 o'clock in the evening. She said she had been curled up in a fetal position all day Saturday, and she was considering suicide because of something that had happened with her principal the day before. So she left this message. It was stunning in its cry for help. So I called her and I said, please, just let's talk. Well, come to find out that the principal had, on a Friday afternoon, unloaded on this young woman and told her she was a good teacher, and then went on to point out every bad thing that she thought she'd ever done, including that her second graders weren't up to the benchmarks on their test scores from the year before, which was not this teacher's fault. This teacher was a third grade teacher. She didn't have anything to do with the second grade benchmark results. And as she continued to describe the situation, I couldn't help but think this principal had had a bad Friday. And she shouldn't have been saying anything to this teacher until she got her own head straight. But instead, she took it out on this teacher. And this teacher took it straight to the heart and felt like she was a complete mess up. And here on Saturday night, still grieving over the barbs that the principal had thrown at her. And I said to her, how long do you think your principal thought about that meeting after she left the building? And she hesitated for a minute. She said, oh, I don't know, probably not long. I said, she's forgotten all about it. And you've been in a fetal position all day today. She's forgotten. I guarantee she left the building. She unloaded on you. She felt better. She went about her business. She's not giving that meeting another thought. And she said to you, you're a good teacher. And all you heard was what came after the but. So go back to, what did she say to you that was positive? Well, there was a lot of stuff, come to find out. But all she was concentrating on was what had come after the but. And when I pointed out, you didn't have anything to do with your third graders' second grade benchmark scores. So why was she taking that out on you? Well, she didn't know. And I said, I think she just had a bad day. So Don't let people bully you, whether it's during your performance review or any other time. Don't let a principal take it out on you that they've had a bad day. And understand that the principal is still a human being making a subjective review, not objective necessarily, subjective. She may not like you, and so she's raking you over the coals, or he. He may just have a demeaning attitude toward all of his teachers. Okay. So don't let anybody make you feel less than. If you know that you're doing the best you can, that is all you can do. So don't let a performance review do you in. And finally, questioning your impact. I know that that's also something that's on a lot of teachers' minds these days. What kind are you making a difference? And the answer is undoubtedly you are, but you may not always feel like you are. And your impact may not be felt until later, which is not satisfactory, but still the case. So remember the 4 clusters. There were 16 activities that I just went over to help you manage your stress. The clusters basically are avoid, alter, adapt, and accept. If you can do those things, it'll help you to manage your day-to-day stress more effectively. And that's what I want for you, to be able to do that, so that you can enjoy your time away from the classroom as much as you enjoy the time in the classroom. And if you aren't enjoying any of your time in the classroom, it's time to think about a career change, period. Now, I know that many teachers are, and that's okay, because life is too short for you to stick in a job that you don't love anymore. And if you've lost your passion, if you feel no purpose in the classroom, if you've given it your ultimate 100% best shot and none of it's working, then it's time to look to make a change. And it's never too early to get started on that process if you decide that that's what you need to do. We'll talk more about that next week. For this week, I hope that those tips and strategies will be useful to you for helping you to manage your stress from this point until the end of the year, because I don't have to tell you from now, I'm recording this the end of February, so we're looking into March. Spring break is right around the corner for many of you. Once you're back from spring break, you're on a whirlwind trying to keep up with all the activities and things that you have to do to get to the end of the year. Not testing to be exact, but in all the activities that go along with the testing. So I know what it's like, and I know that if you want to start thinking about making a career change, now is the time to be doing it. If you have questions about that, email me at kittyboitnott@gmail.com or make an appointment at teachersinTransition.com/calendar. If you would like more information about how to manage your stress, go to the teachersinTransition.com website. There is a cheat sheet on managing your stress. There's a quiz to take on teacher burnout. There's a self-assessment of your stress. And there's an ebook that you can order for free on how to better manage and more proactively manage your stress. On that note, I'll say so long for this week, and I'll see you again next week.